Друзья, просим вас занять свои места. Мы продолжаем. Сейчас начнется необычный...
Resume, and we are going to hear now an interesting presentation on Japanese cyberpunk.
Высокотехнологичной инфраструктуры. И тема кибербезопасности занимает ключевое место в этом жанре.
The concept of high-tech low-life presupposes a low standard of living in a high-tech infrastructure, and therefore the topic of cybercrime is one of the key ones in the genre. In short, we will look at several works of Japanese cyberpunk and the cybersecurity themes that can be traced in them. Please welcome Ekaterina Snegiryova, independent researcher.
Да. Всем добрый день.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Katya Snegiryova. I'm an independent researcher in the field of cybersecurity, latest technologies, and digitalization. Today, I'm going to do a Kinopoisk style session discussing how Japanese cyberpunk envisions the future of high technologies. I want to somehow establish contact with you. Probably you heard about The Ghost in the Shell. Have you seen the series? Yeah, wonderful. It's wonderful to know that people know what I will be talking about. But if you haven't seen the series, I envy you, because it's a great manga, and probably you will enjoy the experience. Today's presentation, I hope, will make you want to see that movie, those animated series.
Взялось такое достаточно необычное для фестиваля.
Why this presentation? Why this title at PhDs? Let me first tell you a little bit about myself. For a long time, I've been working at Positive Technologies as an analyst and as a researcher. And during that time, I also then co-authored about 20 analytical reports. In the last 18 months, I have been studying cybersecurity and new technologies and forecasting of cyber threats. On this slide, you can see some of the research that I published.
Исследование о безопасности
There is the report on security of quantum technologies in the field of IT. It turned out to be the first one in the Russian market at the crossroads of the quantum industry and cybersecurity. We presented this research here a year ago together with my colleague.
Да, в общем-то, как можно сформулировать киберугрозы для того, что еще только-только зарождается?
If something is just emerging, how can you define its cyber threats that are or could be associated with this emerging entity? Well, you look at adjacent areas, you look at current cyber threats. You need to have skills of analysis and analog comparison, or rather, not analog, but comparison, benchmarking, and to be inspired, to look for sources of inspiration. It turned out that Japanese cyberpunk is an excellent source of inspiration, at least for me, because they focus on the future and technology and philosophy as well, which is very typical of an Oriental culture. What is cyberpunk? The main formula of the genre is high-tech, low-life.
Высокотехнологичной среды. Обычно пейзажи напоминают
Usually the landscape
в духе бегущего по лезвию.
In the genre is the Blade Runner type landscape, and if you know where this picture is coming from, this is the Akira anime. If you haven't seen it again, I highly recommend it to you, because there is a good reason why it's become an iconic series, and now it's quoted often by other animators. Usually the cyberspace concept is specific for that particular series, but we do see often AI, robotics, VR, neurotechnology, cyborgs, and corporations, influential corporations. And cybercrime is definitely an important component of this formula, because obviously, given that it's a high-tech future, the criminals make use of the
Сразу отмечу, что киберпанк
of the future technologies. Cyberpunk evolved in the United States and in Asia, in two parts of the world at the same time in the 1980s. The American, like the Blade Runner or the Matrix, they enjoy a cult iconic status for a good reason, and at the same time the Japanese animators have excelled in that genre as well. Let's start with Ghost in the Shell, the best-known animated series. It's 2029. People can replace parts of their bodies with prosthetics, robotized prosthetics, and Major Motoko Kusanagi from the 9th Department of the Security Service fully cybernated her body. Now she's investigating a hacker who calls himself the puppeteer. So there is a lot about philosophy and politics and technology, obviously, in this manga. And by the way, the Ghost in the Shell used to be the inspiration for the Matrix creators. You can see one of the elements that they borrowed. You see the wires connected to the back of the neck. Here is something very, very recognizable. Cyborgs are at the center of attention. The Major's assistant has robotized eyes, while Masnaga herself has a fully robotic body. Neural implantation has achieved heights of implanting a brain. It's a implant that looks like a shell, like an eggshell, that protects the regular brain. So that's why the movies or the series itself is called Ghost in the Shell. And using these implants, the leading character, the main character in the movies can connect to different devices, like special equipment, and often the characters don't even need to talk, to use voice to talk to each other, because they use brain implants, and it looks like telepathy. This is how they communicate. In different systems, you can connect to them using both wires and wireless connections. In one of the episodes, the snipers were connected to the heart pacing systems and breathing systems, so that they can target better. Direct access to brains obviously provided excellent opportunities to the criminals, like substituting memories and confusing people, tricking their consciousness. And Department 9 is investigating the most dangerous crimes of this kind. All of the team in Department 9 are basically cyborgs, but at the same time they have an almost human person, someone who doesn't have virtually any implants. And then, since this manga is originally in Japanese, and it was first translated into English, and then the Russian version is based on the English translation, so when Major Kusanagi is asked why you have a human on your team who is virtually not a cyborg, she gives a philosophical answer, like, if the system would consist of the same components, its a response will be predictable, and now we have an opportunity to look at the same story from different perspectives. But in fact, in the original, in the Japanese language, what the Major says is something extremely practical, and she is talking about vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities associated with implanted technology says it doesn't matter if you're an excellent soldier, if the system contains the same components, this system is bound to have a fatal defect. In addition to neural technologies, one of the key motives is artificial intelligence there, and actually there are so many movies and series that invoke artificial intelligence. According to the plot there is a special software that is trained in various hacking techniques. It's called the Ghost. The Ghost is something that in the series merges the notions of soul and intuition. So this machine acquires its own soul, basically becomes a ghost, and moves towards its goal. Anyway, let's move on to the next series. It's called Serial Experiments Lane. It's more about concepts than the plot per se. One day, Lane Vakura receives a letter from a friend who died, and this friend says that she's traveling in the realm that where the body is not needed. So Lane also decides to travel there. Present day, present time is the opening to every episode. Actually, Chuck Conagra, the scriptwriter, wanted these words, this phrase, to be a manifesto that clearly declares that cyberpunk is not a distant future, but we are already living in the cyberpunk times. And the authors create an interesting, they use an interesting technique to create this cyberpunk atmosphere. No crickets are whistling, but you keep constantly hearing the noise from the wires. And I would be curious to see how long during the series we are seeing the wire posts and the wires themselves. They become characters in the series.
Well, here you can see the entire frame is taken up by wires, and the main character going back from school, and this is the view out of her window, also full of wires. And in 1998, people were inspired and awed by the internet. That was the new virtual reality back then. And the authors decided to use as the basis the internet infrastructure. What's interesting is that the very term internet was never used in the series, and the cyberspace space was called wired, or network as it was translated into Russian. The matter is that the title was actually used to honor the Wired magazine that inspired the authors of the series. They read up on lots of materials and they try to visualize the articles in the Wired. And this name also references the phenomenon of being interlinked, because Wired can be translated as, connected by a wire. And the author in his blog shared that he felt he was obliged to use the internet as the leitmotif of the series, because back then the internet was at its early stages of development. However, the series was never designed to predict the development of future technologies. Rather, it focused on just one of the possible scenarios of what might happen today if the internet was widely used at that point of time. And of course, all of the authors, all of the creators try to visualize the cyberspace. And since the internet communications were one of the most popular things to discuss, they created unique visual tools. Among other things, when shooting this series, the authors focused on the influence of the new technology and talking online on the development of personality. They focused on various psychiatric disorders, internal contradictions, and the level of trust and mistrust towards the information. And one of the episodes was actually called Rumors. And the authors of the series actually predicted deepfakes by visualizing this particular form. Cybercrime in the series is primarily represented by the operations of the hacktivist group. They attack network systems, they send out spam, which is for phishing purposes probably. They also hacked hardware systems and physical infrastructure linked to the net. And one of the episodes described a crash of the traffic lights, and that caused lots of traffic accidents with some lethal cases in the streets of the city. The next creation that I like to focus on has nothing to do with cyberpunk directly, because it's not about low-life high-tech. However, it also describes new technologies, and the cybersecurity is an obvious topic raised. The scientists came up with a device that can be used by other people to penetrate other people's dreams and record them. Psychiatrists use it for therapeutical purposes, and 3 such devices were stolen. And then the hacker hacks someone's conscious to generate nightmares. At the point of the creation are the neurotechnologies. Back then, the devices were only being developed, and there were no controls and safety means. Therefore, the adversary who stole the devices managed to hack the consciousnesses of everyone who ever used this system. Ultimately, that draws universal attention to the security by design concept. And according to this concept, functions responsible for the security should be developed simultaneously with the main functions throughout the life cycle of the product, starting from the early stages of R&D. And the cyberpunk creations can be called the recollections of the future, I guess, because the authors talked about their vision of the technology's development, and that happened 20 to 30 years ago. Now let's take a look at what is happening with technologies in the modern world. The very first technology I want to focus on is the IoT, the Internet of Things, and the cyber systems. IoT devices are being actively deployed to solve daily tasks. They are part of the urban infrastructure, and IoT devices are used in various industries for production purposes. Smart home, smart plant, smart city, all of these constructs require the use of a huge number of IoT devices. And their number goes up every single year. And by things, we mean everything that can be identified online and that can be integrated into the web. And unfortunately, these devices are attacked all the time. Oftentimes, the adversaries get access to these devices by using vulnerabilities in hardware and firmware, weak passwords and stuff like that. And when I did the research last year devoted to the industrial IoT, I drew this very conclusion. However, the very same problems are relevant for other industries as well. For instance, certain researchers have demonstrated a possibility of hacking heart rate monitors and the pacemakers. And the next category of technologies I'd like to focus on are the neurotechnologies. They were described by all the previous creations I described. So it's a combination of a human and a machine. And healthcare would be a good example. Over the years, healthcare has advanced considerably. And right now, there are implants that can help you control electronics with the power of thought. That makes me wonder whether in the future, just like in the Ghost in the Shell, we'll be able to hook up to various systems such as vehicles and then talk to these devices with the power of thought. The next technology I'd like to focus on is robotics. Naturally, robotics are being actively developed as well, and robotics are part and parcel of any sci-fi book. In Japan, they have Mecha, which is a standalone genre devoted to robotics. Naturally, we are seeing much progress, and even here at this PhD fest, there is a robot that you can try and hack. Companies try to manufacture human-like robots, and they even provide them with artificial skin. Some of them are taught to dance, some of them are taught to sing. According to experts, by 2030, 80% of people will communicate with multifunctional robots on a daily basis. By 2030. AI. I couldn't but mention AI. Every single company rolls out AI components. Please raise your hand if you have never used ChatGPT, large language models, or any other AI-based system. Please raise your hand, but I don't see any hands raised, which means that, well, actually, you are a tech-savvy audience and you use new tools on a regular basis. Unfortunately, adversaries also use, actually, I would say, misabuse AI, and the 65 attacks will probably use AI to some extent by 2030. But the good news is that companies specializing in cybersecurity include new technologies into their nascent products. The AI at the current stage has much room for improvement, and according to experts, they have different views on that. Some experts say that we're going to see a powerful AI system by 2030, while others say that it's not going to happen sooner than in 20 years' time. However, there are already interesting capabilities inherent in neural networks. They can think similar to humans if they are asked to do that. And one of the most interesting phenomena that I came across is that AI can suffer from hallucinations. That's a feature inherent in generative AI models. Not only can they draw a conclusion based on the data analyzed, they can also come up, they can imagine certain facts. Another achievement that I cannot but mention is quantum technologies. Quantum technologies are based on quantum effects, such as superposition and fuzzing. These technologies are being actively developed, and experts say that quantum computers will be made available in 5 years. However, if you want to test the new technology today, there are program simulators developed by Russian developers, and they're available in messengers. And I'm not kidding, this is really so. One of the domains in the quantum technologies is the quantum internet. Quantum internet should not be compared with the conventional internet. The quantum internet will be used for sending shorter messages, but the protection is going to be provided by the physical features of the quantum technologies that I have already mentioned. And there are a number of interesting steps that have already been taken. For instance, last year, 3 R&D teams from different countries tested the quantum internet in the urban communications environment, and it turns out that it works. If you recall what the serial experiments Lane stated, then the author tried to describe the technologies that we're already familiar with. The quantum internet is another step into the future. Right now, it's at the concept stage right now. But the quantum internet, could be used for watching movies, sending the files right now. But, progress is made. And experts are already thinking about possible cyber threats that might affect the cyber internet. For instance, data theft or breach of quantum networks and quantum nodes. There are lots of new technologies that have been integrated into the urban environment, and that's why the smart cities concept became possible. Given the ubiquitous introduction of digital solutions, urban systems become ever more interconnected. And of course, we need to pay much closer attention to ensuring cyber security, because cyber attacks are targeted against urban systems, and that can cause huge consequences. Going back to the serial experiments Lane, an attack by adversaries caused a number of traffic accidents, some of them lethal. So now let's sum up the takeaways pertaining to cybersecurity. Throughout the time I looked into the new technologies and the problems related to cybersecurity, I realized that most of the problems are very familiar to us. For instance, let's take the quantum technologies as an example. I would say 30% of the problems pertaining to cybersecurity are going to be linked with the innovative physical infrastructure. I'm talking about things like instability of key bytes, cross-interference, and features inherent in the quantum logical chains. Other problems are well familiar, for instance, unsafe code execution, access errors to the cloud infrastructure. And during my research, I singled out three categories that deserve primary attention. The first one includes vulnerabilities. There are so many vulnerabilities, and they are so different that I would actually call them vulnerabilities, and yet more vulnerabilities. The next category is unsafe configuration, and the third one is shortcomings in access control. What's interesting is that you can track all these problems in the creations I mentioned. For instance, the ghost in the shell focused on the vulnerabilities per se. Serial experiments Lane stated that most of the attacks were linked to the unsafe configuration, while the Paprika was a good demonstration of shortcomings in access control. The cybersecurity problems stemming from the new technologies might scare you, but you have to realize that future is not a distant thing. It's what we're building here and now. So, what do we do? What decisions should we take, and what concepts should we roll out? First and foremost, we need to focus more on the security by design. I already mentioned what it means. Cybersecurity is part and parcel of a system starting from the very early stages of development. The second most important concept is zero trust. It pertains to access control, and what it says is that not a single system component can be trusted 100%. So it's similar to trust but verify. The only difference being verify is going to be the key point, and it's going to be done in several iterations. So it's like verify, trust but verify. You might say that it's similar to the anxiety pattern or a paranoia pattern. I would say that it's a pitfall of your profession. It's difficult to be an InfoSec expert. As far as the access control is concerned, due attention should be paid to the access provided by the company to subcontractors and partners. Giving the higher level of digital interconnection and interconnectivity, I guess in the future we're going to see more trusted relationship attacks when the targeted company is going to be attacked through the infrastructure of subcontractors and partners. The next important part is the security of supply chains. Companies responsible for rolling out smart technologies should proactively manage risks that are inherent in supply chains of any new technology. Let me give you an example. For instance, in a smart city, you roll out lots of IoT devices. Therefore, you should be aware of the cybersecurity risks inherent in such a deployment. You have to be clear on what specific data is processed by IoT devices and their mode of operation. Another important part is bug bounty, and I believe that this is a great step. New technology problems are linked with vulnerabilities, therefore bug bounty are going to be useful for companies. Such programs help you attract a huge community of experts to detect vulnerabilities, to ultimately remove them. And last but not least, keep on studying new technologies. Let me go back to the very beginning of my presentation. I posed the following question. Is it possible to define cyber threats for nascent technologies, for emerging technologies? And let me reiterate the answer. Read cybersecurity materials, read materials on new technologies, read materials from the adjacent industries, improve your skills, analyze data, draw analogies, watch as much as you possible, read as much as you possible, and stay inspired. That brings me to the end of my presentation, and I wish every single one of you to find your own source of inspiration. If you have any ideas that you'd like to share with me, my contact information is shown on the slide, and I'll be happy to talk to you because it's always interesting for me. Just recently, I set up my own Telegram channel where I share my views on new technologies, culture, psychology, art. So this is what I call the collective unconscious. And in the near future, I plan to upload some of the things that I didn't have the time to cover today. For instance, just recently, I started studying Japanese, and picking up a new language, incentivized me to analyze some of the translations and dubbing translations. I read a series of articles on that, and I have much information and many conclusions to share with you. Thank you so much for your attention, and see ya.